This episode 269 of the Thoughtium Navigating Now virtual roundtable series. I'm your host, Anthony Ewing, co-founder, chief brand officer here at Thoughtium, and we are thrilled to be back at the table with you all on this 269th episode. Week over week, our goal is to bring you leaders and leadership topics that matter most. And I was just having a conversation with somebody about how consistency is the key when it comes to content creation. And that's why we're so passionate and so emphatic and so fervent about coming to you all so consistently every Thursday at 3:00. Today's conversation is one I always look forward to. Anytime we can get a thought leader at the table that's talking about content creation and content strategy and even the future of certain aspects of content, I get really excited because this is a big platform for us and we want to continue to shape it in ways that really meet your needs. So today we are welcoming to the table Jen Dudley. She is the CEO and the owner-operator of Dante 32. We're going to bring Jen forward, and our topic today is content that cuts through. Jen, thank you so much for joining, and thanks for being a part of the discussion today.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, Jen, you are Chicago-based. I can see some of the same sun peeking through your windows, thankfully. Tell us something you love about Chicago.
Oh, my goodness. It's being a walkable city, honestly, is the thing that I love the most. Walking is a kind of like core part of my life. You get to see other people living their lives and out and about, especially when the weather starts to turn like this.
Well, I will tell you, about 2 years ago, I was turned on to Divvy Life in Chicago. And for those who are not in Chicago, Divvy is our bike share program. Every major city has the bike share programs. And I feel like I'm officially a Divvy rider because I had my first fairly significant wipeout this morning at 5:15 on Grand Avenue in Chicago. And I feel like you haven't really made it unless you've like kind of wiped out or bitten it, on a divvy. Fortunately, I'm okay. Unfortunately, it was definitely
no noticeable injuries. So
it was definitely my fault. Yes, exactly. But yeah, Chicago is such an easy city to navigate, and you live in other cities, and you kind of come back to Chicago realizing, wow, it's easy to get around here. Jen, you are the owner operator of Dante 32. Tell us a little bit about your practitionership, and we define practitionership here at Thoughtium as the work that you love to do, the work that you almost treat as like an art form or a craft. So tell us a little bit about the work that you love to do.
For me, it is certainly in this role, it's working with clients, people who have a point of view and a story to tell, and helping them hone that message and really kind of drill in to what's under, getting past the need to be perfect and super polished and really just uncovering their expertise and their kind of lived experience that's worth sharing, and helping them do that.
Yeah. And that is an art form. That is a craft, right? If Dante 32 were truly just a content shop,
sure,
it would be outside of kind of what you're talking about, which is like you're kind of in the business of human connection. And I know that's kind of the way that you approach a lot of the work that you do. So, tell us a little bit about how you kind of create the space for people to really show their true colors, to share authentically in a world where a lot of times when we're creating content, we feel like it's got to be the most polished version of who we are.
Sure. It's a challenge, first of all, and my brain was going in several different directions there, because I think that there's sort of two sides to this, because we mostly are working with clients who are having conversations. So it's getting the host to a place where they're able to share and to ask good questions, and then also on the guest side. So I think part of it is just always remembering, no matter how busy things get, is you're talking to people and making sure that the kind of like hospitality aspect of what you're doing, I think is really important in really anywhere. But if you're talking about content creation or podcasts, I think that's the first piece to
Yeah.
ensuring that people are comfortable and able to speak more freely.
Yeah. I love
And
that. Yeah. I want to draft on that because,
sure.
so you're, a lot of the client work that you do is
Mhm.
helping people and organizations design and develop really effective podcast series. And we're going to talk a little bit about like, podcast and the future of
Sure.
voice, which I'm fascinated with. Uh, you know, I think preparation is one way that we can get people a little bit more comfortable,
Mhm.
with sharing their story authentically. I
Mhm.
also think the complete inverse of that is true. Like
Mhm.
unwinding some of the over preparation that typically occurs when we're even thinking about content.
Sure.
So like one of the things that we do, here at Thought Team, we were just talking about this before the show, Jen, is I mean, one of the big advantages that we have in going live every Thursday is
Mhm.
that there is no redo button.
Right.
Like there's no stopping
Yeah.
and clapping your hands because the editor needs to cut it here and
Mhm.
splice it in here. And I think the first 40 episodes of Navigating Now, 30 or 40 episodes were pre-recorded. And when I tell you, it took an entire afternoon
I
to
believe it.
record one of these because
Mhm.
you had the ability to do retakes. You had
Sure.
the ability to like make sure that you said the perfect thing. So I think one really interesting best practice is get people almost out of their kind of preparation comfort zone and get them just talking naturally,
Sure.
and finding ways to kind of highlight, what's coming through more naturally.
Absolutely, and I think, really the interview format, whether it's live or not or recorded, is helpful because, we've worked with clients who are really trying to, you know, have their people tell their story.
Mm,
They have a whole bunch of experts, and, it can be tough sometimes when someone is an expert for them to recognize
mm,
that they actually have something interesting to say. And so if you say, "Hey, write a blog article or, tell us about what you do," that can be kind of a challenge because
yeah,
their perspective is like, "Well, I don't know. It just seems kind of common knowledge." And so when you're able to help out by asking questions to kind of pull that out and
yeah.
uncover what that person may not even realize, um, is really worth telling and sharing.
Mhm. I love that. So, finding ways to kind of bring forward a sense of authenticity is,
Mhm.
I think, a great best practice. I'm curious, Jen, any other, best practices that you have in mind that you deploy with your clients in terms of building, great content? Are you going more long form these days than short form? Are you asking your folks to think a little bit more provocatively about like the hot takes that they put forward? Like, how do we, in a world where there are a million and one podcasts,
Mhm.
like how do we help our clients kind of cut through and differentiate, with best practices?
Sure. I think step 1 is honestly taking a step back and not thinking about the content machine and the algorithms
Mhm.
and whatever is, um, even the channel, and asking why. Like,
Yeah.
why are you wanting to produce content? What is valuable to your audience and or to you as an organization? And getting very clear about what that is, rather than caught up in the need to create content, I think is a good
Mhm.
place to start. And then the other piece I would say, similar to what you were your decision with the "We're gonna go live every week," is just to jump in and do it and not overthink it,
Yeah.
because I
Mhm.
I think it's very easy to get caught up in the mechanics or do we need to do video or just audio or, what's
Mhm.
the latest this, that, and the other, rather than practice. Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, the more you do something regularly, the easier it's gonna get. I think that
Yeah.
you've seen that, as an organization. You're like, "Okay, we're gonna do our best today. We're gonna be
Yeah.
back next Thursday." So
I love that. And I think a lot of this, I know, the focus of what you do is finding that sense of authenticity. And I think the thread here that we're maybe pulling through is sometimes less is more, right? I love your best practice of like, don't start with the algorithm or kind of even like the standard operating process. Like, just put pen to paper, demonstrate a little bit of that creative confidence. You've got me thinking about, I've had a couple of conversations with, some clients and some friends about how, we're all talking about AI, how quickly it's moving, but like particularly how there are certain things that, a lot of things that typically would have taken us a long time to do that we're doing in a much more expedited fashion. And I think that actually all of the operations of setting up a podcast, post-producing it, chopping it up, distributing it across channels, like that overnight has become automated. Like you can have an AI agent literally run that entire process. There's a reason though why what we're doing is a little bit more kind of human-centered or human-led, because I actually think that authenticity is now going to be like the new differentiator and maybe even like the new currency in a world where, everybody's going to be able to spin up a content creation engine with little to no, resources. And that's going to be, it's going to be kind of like, the commodity. Exactly. Yeah. You just nailed it. It's funny. I'll say one more thing and I want to get your thoughts. There was a story earlier this week or maybe last week of somebody who had vibe coded, used Claude to vibe code a weight loss app that kind of went viral. And then some company picked it up for, I want to say it was like, $500 million or something like that. Like it was insane, right? It was the first $100 million deal on a product that was vibe coded. And the interesting thing is like, why would an organization pay several $100 million for something that anybody could vibe code?
Right.
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 So I think
there's the defensibility there.
Yeah. We're still in that transition space where people don't understand that in 6 to 18 months, all of these kind of standard procedures are going to be totally equalized for anybody that's got a computer. So what rises to the top, in app development, or what rises to the top in content creation? And I think we're maybe making the case that it's authenticity. I'm curious as to your thoughts.
I think yes. And I would say, I think it's conversation. I think conversation might be one of the things that's becomes the most defensible in terms of the hardest to replicate, because while sure, you can feed an AI, a topic and it'll give you two people talking, I think that's still the place that it's the most difficult to just churn out and replicate. And I think some of the most interesting content is when it's not a manufactured speech, monologue, or even conversation, but you catch people being caught off guard by a question or having to think in real time. So you get to see how someone thinks and processes, I think is some of the most engaging content. And if you're talking about business content and B2B, there's a lot of reasons that you could be putting out content. And I think it's important to articulate those. But for the most part, you want people to be able to see who you are so they can decide whether or not they want to work with you.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you touch on something that I'm very passionate about. For those solopreneurs out there, for those single shingles, and even some of the kind of uber small businesses, 10 employees or less, if your clients don't know who you are, you're at a massive disadvantage. I understand so many of us, it's a little bit more comfortable when you're working for a massive organization to kind of like hide behind the brand curtains of the organization. And in many cases, like we're kind of restricted in terms of the way that we, put ourselves out there. But if you're growing a small business, and especially for those independent coaches and consultants, if people don't see who you are literally in their feed, on a day-to-day basis, and I don't mean kind of the perfect picture, of you, in the private jet or like working with the perfect client, but like just authentically knowing who you are. you're at such a disadvantage in a world where that is free. It is available. And I'm curious,
Mhm.
Jen, what do you think kind of holds people back, when it comes to I'm sure you've talked to potential clients where you can sense that there's just a little bit of this like pause or this like aversion
Mhm.
to like really putting themselves out there.
I think it varies person to person, and it's a little. This will be kind of ironic, but I am someone who has a bit of an aversion to putting myself out there. I don't. It's a little bit of a uh, take my advice and not my example,
Yeah.
because for a lot of the same reasons I had said. I think it can be tough sometimes because there is so much noise, and there's such pressure to have an opinion about things, and still a sense of like needing to be polished or worrying about backlash, or how are people going to comment? Are they not going to comment at all? And to get kind of caught up in that. And So I think some of it is recognizing that even if, and frankly, especially if something seems really common knowledge to you, doesn't necessarily mean that it is otherwise. And I think also recognizing that the point isn't necessarily the exact message that you have. Maybe it's not, you're not going to come out every day or every post with like the newest idea,
Mhm.
novel idea, but it's what you were just saying. It's an opportunity for people to get to know you, and it's relationship building in perhaps a bit of a parasocial kind of way.
Yeah.
But in a world where we're not doing as much in-person connections, although I love to see some of that coming back these days.
Mhm.
Um, it's a way for people to see you, to get to
Yeah.
know you.
Yeah. I love that. And I think one of the well, first of all, thank you for sharing. And also like thank you for, the courage that you're even demonstrating today in going live with us. Um just because, you are an expert in this field doesn't mean that it's comfortable for you or anybody for that matter.
Sure.
So I definitely understand that. And I think for those reasons, I think there's a lot of folks out there that feel blocked or maybe have a little bit of that aversion. And that's why you look at a platform like LinkedIn,
Mhm.
which I think is still so ripe for organic, authentic
Totally.
content of who
Mhm.
people are. There is such an opportunity in LinkedIn today to cut through some of the kind of inspirational quotes and
Sure.
kind of standard corporate memes and kind of congrats announcements that you find on LinkedIn. I mean, I challenge anybody to flip through your feed. You're not going to find too many people that are leveraging video or audio to tell you who they are and the work that they love to do. It is and on Instagram, that's all you get.
Right.
Not professionally, but like just in terms of like our personal lives, like we are so easily kind of taking a camera and we've got like the highlight reels and all that stuff.
Sure.
I think LinkedIn is still one of the most ripe platforms for particularly B2B business owners
Yes.
to share unique content. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming you kind of maybe share that perspective. Is that what you're encouraging your clients to think about?
As far as channels,
Yeah.
yes, I think, again, it kind of depends a little bit on the business, but I would say, I think LinkedIn has been for a little while and continues to, certainly for B2B
Mhm.
businesses, makes a ton of sense. And gosh, there was a couple of things as you were talking um, that I wanted to come back to. And of course, they've completely eluded me at this moment.
That's okay.
Um, oh, I know what I was going to say. I think the other thing with content is around the like, why are you doing it? Is to recognize the value is a bit 360, and that rather than feeling like you have to have all of the answers and to be perfectly polished, is to use the act of putting yourself out there, of having these kinds of conversations,
Mm.
of participating in a discussion on LinkedIn
Mm.
to refine what you think. Like that's something that we've worked with businesses for as well. Part of that idea of you want to be clear on your perspective and why you're doing something, but perhaps you jump in and then use that process to gain the clarity and also to the experience in articulating your ideas and getting better at it, which I think is helpful, certainly for leaders, but really kind of throughout the organization, is to give people a platform that they can practice having those conversations and working out how they think. And in a world of AI where content is so commoditized, I think that will become even more valuable, is again kind of demonstrating what it's like to not be at the final answer, but to be thinking through it. When answers are endless and immediate, what kind of questions are you asking?
Yeah. So good. Yeah. When people ask the question kind of like where to start, I think that's the answer. What conversations are you having naturally day to day? And can you find ways to kind of package that perspective up? Jen, thank you so much for the insights that you're sharing here today on episode 269. We would love to round out this episode with a little bit of a lightning round. Are you game?
Yes, I am.
You are. There's a little bit of pause there. That's okay. Okay. What today are you reading, watching, or listening to that like really has you jazzed?
What am I reading, watching, or listening to?
It could be like a show that you're watching, or some podcast or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing all that interesting. I just finished. Well, anyways, here we go with that. Not work related at all. But I just finished watching Young Sherlock, which I actually quite enjoyed.
So I've heard good things.
Yeah.
It
reminded me a little of The Artful Dodger, in that it's this period piece, but well done.
I love it. What is that? What is that on? Where can we find that?
Why did you ask? Prime.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've heard really good things about that.
Yeah.
With your clients, are you big on audio? Are you big on video, or are you recommending both?
I mean, I think the answer is both. I think you need to tackle both. But in the world of everything is now video, I tend to be, I'm a big fan of audio only. I think it definitely has a place. And I think it's important. You don't have to do full video all of the time. You can focus on audio and still have video elements that you can use in the channels that's appropriate.
Are you about distribution or like originality in a particular channel? Like why distribution, or like organic to the platform?
You mean creating content that's specific to each individual channel? I think it's good to know what your to have what are you creating for? So if LinkedIn is your primary, I think it's really hard and time consuming to do custom content for every channel. So I think prioritizing kind of what you're focusing on. And sometimes, let's be real, there's going to be a channel that you're like, hey, we want to have a presence, but it's maybe not completely tailored.
I actually I want to look this up. I'd love to know if there is data that suggests, because you do see a lot of people that are like kind of cross posting. Like you'll see a lot of Twitter or X posts in Instagram, like a lot of and big time thought leaders that will just post their tweet. I always appreciate, like, if I'm like doom scrolling like a YouTube short feed, which is like more times than I want to even admit. I appreciate when I see a bit of like a TikTok or an IG reel, and I'm wondering if there is like interesting kind of value in that type of like there's a reason why people do that.
I think it's important to be the idea is being where your audience is. And often those sometimes you'll come across someone will come across your content in multiple channels, but often, your Apple Podcast audience is different than your YouTube audience or your LinkedIn. So if you're creating the content, distributing it wherever you can, I think, why not? The lift is low. And I think being aware of some of the trade-offs you might be making if you're distributing to a platform, but say to YouTube, but you haven't fully optimized for video. Still post there, if for no other reason, it's the second largest search engine. So
Yeah.
I think part of it is distribution and part of it is discovery.
Is there anybody out there that you feel like is just really doing content differently? That's just like really kind of like cutting through, like, and I'll give you another like second to think, but we talk about like authenticity, and I think Theo Von right now is doing like some of the most authentic content out there. That dude is one of the most like unscripted himself podcast hosts, and it's so ripe for just these amazing, very human moments that he's having with people. Is there anybody in your spheres that you feel like is just doing it differently?
I mean, I hate to say it, but there's nothing that's like jumping to mind right in this moment. And part of it is because I'm always game for a lightning round of questions, and I often in those moments will draw a blank. So
That's very real.
That's
very real. That's very real. Well, there's plenty out there. So I'm sure you do have some favorites, and I hate to put you on the spot. We'll round it out with just one more question. This should be a little bit more of an easy one. And we ask everybody this at the end of Navigating Now. Jen, what is one thing that you feel you really admire about yourself or feel like is a real strength that if you could share that gift with the world, you would?
I think it's I would say a genuine curiosity about people and belief in kind of like the goodness and what's unique in someone, and giving them space to see that in themselves and to express it. Creating space for that.
I love that. Yeah. Do you find that it's getting harder to enable others to see the goodness in themselves? Like, do you find that it's like, we're constantly having to kind of slow people down and say, hey, like, acknowledge like your greatness in this moment right now?
I think it's getting harder to see that in the world collectively. I think there's just a lot. There's a lot right now, just in this moment, whether it's, AI, job anxiety, or pick anything going on, in the broader scale of things. And so I think that makes human connection and human conversation and coming back to like one-on-one interactions, I think even more valuable.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I've experienced in just getting to know you and the few kind of jam sessions that you and I have had is I can tell that, how kind of intentional you are with the way that you interact with folks. And I think that brings the best out of people. It almost kind of demands a certain pause of people, that it's not just kind of hot air, that when you show up for a conversation, you really are present. And that's something that, I admire about you. I mean, in the few interactions that we've had. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining, Jen. I appreciate your insights, your thought leadership, and we would love to have you back someday.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And congratulations on 269 episodes.
Yes.
That alone is quite a feat. Again, there's something to be said for just continuing to put yourself out there.
Thank you so much. That is received. I appreciate you. All right, Jen, we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right. We want to thank Jen Dudley, the owner-operator of Dante 32, for joining this episode 269. Great episode. I love getting on the line with other practitioners and jamming about what we love. And right now I'm really fascinated with where social media and content is headed in a world where things are changing so quickly. But I will tell you, every conversation that I have around this topic, around emerging technologies, the impact that it may have on us, and in this case, our content, the evergreen ingredient that is always rising to the top is authenticity. It might have been, 3, 4, 5 years ago, a bit more of like a nice concept to fold into conversations. And I feel today more than ever, it's an absolute requisite. Like it's an absolute must in the way that we do business, the way that we film content, the way that we share our stories. And we hope that you're getting that sense from, the story that we're sharing week over week. Authenticity matters. It cannot be created. There cannot be artificial authenticity. You cannot prompt authenticity. It's the ingredient that will live forever as the world changes. So thank you all for being such a big part of this conversation, this community. We go live every Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central. You can find this episode and all episodes at thoughttium.com/live. We'll see you all next week. For those of you who are still in the feed, next week, we are super excited. We got the entire Thought team in town. This new Chicago office is going to be more full than you can imagine. I feel like it's going to be this amazing explosion of, all of our practitioners coming together and connecting and getting to know each other and our business even more. And so we're going to bring as many people as we can into next week's episode in a really fun and creative way. So you don't want to miss that. Next week, 3 o'clock Central. We hope you all have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next Thursday.